Hello and welcome to another edition of A Meeting of the Minds. I am the Great Bodini.
And I'm Sir Lancelot.
Lance, it's been a little while since we've had a little discussion. What's been going on in the music world?
Well, there's not too much to talk about. The news has been kind of on the short side, but there have been some major things. Number one, first and foremost, is the Misfits. Now, everybody's known that they were going to get back together again recently, but it's just now being dawned upon us, and we've seen a couple shows recently with the great Dave Lombardo from Slayer, who's also playing with Suicidal Tendencies now, along with the Misfits. So
it's been 33 years, man, since they last played together.
That's, the Misfits lineup.
Yeah, exactly. And it was one of those bands where people were like, it's just not going to happen. They're never going to get back together. They said the same thing about the Stone Roses. They said the same thing about the Guns N' Roses, even though the Guns N' Roses wasn't a true,
But here's the parallel between the Misfits and Guns N' Roses is that there's been feuds in both where it's just like completely detrimental and it just ruins the band. And in the Misfits case, of course, that all falls on Danzig.
Right.
But that's a story for another time.
Yeah. Well, I did hear once. I don't remember where it was, but it was like on a radio show, and Scott Ian was on the radio show, and they're like, "Oh, hey, yeah, Danzig is going to be on." He's like, "Oh yeah, cool, I love the Misfits," and I guess Danzig happened to hear it, and he actually turned the car around and went and left because he wasn't going to go up there and talk about the Misfits, and he had already like if I see Scott Ian, I'm going to punch him in his mouth, kind of deal. Like I can't be around this guy, so I
Can't blame the guy.
I guess it was a sore subject for many years, but hey,
Yep.
They're back together, or at least for one show.
No, actually, because since that show, there's been some chemistry there. At least they feel, which is a good thing because now there's rumors that this could become a full-fledged tour, whether that's U.S. or Europe or worldwide. Who knows? But only time will tell at this point, obviously.
Exactly.
Next bit of news: Lady Gaga announced a new album, and she's got a new song out with none other than Mark Ronson, famously known for Uptown Funk, and Josh Homme, who we mentioned a couple episodes back on our Stoner Rock episode.
Yeah, Josh is one of those guys. He's very diverse. He plays pretty much anything.
And I listened to the track. I think it's very good, especially for Gaga standards, and that opening guitar lick is pretty much the first thing you hear coming out of Josh, and it's good. It's poppy, it's catchy, it's upbeat. My only thing is that it's kind of buried in the mix. So, I mean, you can kind of hear that the guitar is there and you can hear what he's doing, but it's over, or I should say under. It's under a whole bunch of other stuff. Obviously, the beat is loud, and Gaga's like at the forefront of all this.
Of course.
So, I mean, coming from Queens of the Stone Age fans, obviously, that's a little bit of a disappointment, but at the same time, it's still interesting to see that collaboration happen.
Well, they even thought the same thing, like when Elton John was working with Queens of the Stone Age. A lot of the more elegant people, because that's the thing about Elton. He transcends so many different genres. So I mean, even the elegant people are like, why is he working with this low rented type of band? Even though they're not, they're fucking huge, but still, like, why is he just peddling with this guy?
You can kind of say the same thing when it comes to Elton working with Alice in Chains on that Black Gives Way to Blue title track, man.
Yeah, that was a good song. I didn't even know that was... I remember thinking, I was like, Elton John was played on this. I remember even texting you, I was like, didn't Elton John play on this album? Yeah, he played on that song. I'm like, that was him.
The last song, yeah. The piano the whole time is just Elton. And then,
that's amazing.
Williams of all their new singers. It's just the two of them, it seems, and then a whole bunch of strings. Last bit of news we wanted to mention.
Okay.
And we had talked about this a little while ago. Smashing Pumpkins. Yes. Again, it's all speculation, kind of like Tool, but Billy was interviewed again recently, and he said, he's still been keeping in close contact with Darcy, and he said that he feels like it's the right time again to do big riffs and big choruses, and I'm doing air quotes here.
Yeah.
So, he's going to try to get this Siamese Dream-gish lineup back together, because that's the kind of sound he wants to go for, I guess.
I think he even quoted saying, I better get Jimmy Chamberlain on the telephone, because and that other girl, because those are pretty much the only people who I know can play that kind of music. So,
and man, did they pull it off better than a lot of people that for their time,
Well,
in that decade, I should say, when those albums came out.
Yeah, and I remember a buddy of mine told me that he's like, I read somewhere that the two best-selling bands in the 90s was Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins. And I said, no, I don't. And then I started thinking about it. I said, I think it was true. Especially with those first three albums. You know, of course, by the time you got to Adora, you know, they were a household name by then.
I mean, obviously, at the time that album came out, a lot of people were chomping at the bit to buy it because they were, you know, so familiar with Siamese Dream and Melancholy, etc.
Yeah.
But that album has such a different sound, and you can really tell where the band was mentally and, you know, the chemistry that was going on there for the time because it's so bleak.
And that Zero shirt is fucking iconic. It's one of those things like when you think of the 90s or you bring up alternative, I think of Billy Corgan, I think of that Zero shirt. I think about that era.
Absolutely.
You know, and a lot of kids nowadays they don't understand. You know, you do because, you know, your dad pretty much that's all he listened to, and your mom listens to some pretty bitchin' stuff too. But most kids nowadays, they don't know what I mean. They kind of understand a little bit what videos and stuff do.
Yeah, and here's the thing: you can put on like Bullet with Butterfly Wings, for example, and like most people, you know, kids like that will be like, "Oh, I know this song," blah blah blah, but they can't even tell you who it is or what era it came out in.
You know, I remember watching the Bullet with Butterfly Wings like on MTV. It being like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm home from school. Turn it on. The world is a vampire. I mean, of course, nowadays we're going to go into the MTV here like within a second here. So I'm going to tell you like this. Back in those days, it didn't matter. It was videos all the time.
It was music.
Videos.
Number one. It was prioritized.
I won my MTV. That wasn't just some fucking slogan that, you know, some fucking wackos in the 80s came up with. That was true shit. And what I'm going to talk about right now, is a great little transition, is the fucking MTV Music Awards that happened 2 weeks ago. When I first got into it, I mean, all my life MTV was always on. It was always on. I don't remember a time never when MTV was not on in my house. It was like that. That was my family kind of deal.
And not to mention that MTV was still kind of family friendly even for that time.
Yeah.
Versus what it is now.
But this year, I didn't watch anything of it. But when I'm going through the TV guide or the guide on my TV to look for something to watch, and it's like, I think it was like 12 channels had the MTV fucking Music Awards on. What's that all about? 12 channels.
Yeah, it's the MTV Music Awards.
Yeah, why isn't it not on MTV or MTV2 or the now newly christened MTV Classic? Why isn't it just on those? Why does it have to be on the fucking Nick at Night or TV Land show? Or why does it have to be on BET? With the BET and then I think it was even on the fucking CMT channel, the country music channel. What the fuck's that all about, man? I mean, when I was...
is that kind of like a branch off of MTV? Because, I mean, I'm not...
I have no idea.
An MTV connoisseur. I don't know.
When I was growing up, there was CMT, and then there was I think it was called TNN, and that was these were the two country channels, and they would, you know, like MTV, they would play country music videos, they would do like line dancing or something stupid. Well, TNN became Spike, so there is no more. There's only one country channel, and that's pretty much what you get on there. If people even do videos nowadays, and that was another thing, was you're having a show about having music videos. When was the fucking last time that MTV actually showed a fucking music video? Even the president said it's been 15 fucking years since they even had a video on it. Why? Maybe you should fucking call your show something else. I mean, get the fuck off.
They should call the channel something else.
Yeah, the channel something else. I mean, you have reality TV. They even fucking show movies on there. And it's like, why do they show movies on there?
What gives... It's a music video channel, and they're playing full-fledged movies.
I've seen Boy Meets World shown on MTV2. I've seen fucking Family Matters on MTV2.
Now, is this all just... I know shows like Jersey Shore, and, you know, they're now even rerunning Beavis and Butthead again, but is it all just based on nostalgia now?
I don't know.
The little in-between shows that they get on their sellout shows?
Probably.
Might as well bring back Dario while you're at it.
Well, even Beavis and Butthead, you know, back in the day, it was all about watching the videos and making fun of them, or if it was metal, we're going to rock out to it. Now, it's, like, hey, let's watch the Jersey Shore, or like Teenage Mom or something like that. It's like, where's the music videos?
I'm 16 and pregnant.
Yeah.
Wow.
I could think of tons of metal videos they could have been playing from Mastodon or Anthrax or not Meshuggah or something.
And it doesn't even have to be metal. No. This is MTV. It could be like
it could be
generic like modern pop music at least.
And then they also talked about giving Kanye West 4 minutes. Who the fuck's idea was to give that asshole 4 minutes?
Especially after what happened, like, I don't even know how many MTV Music Video Awards ago.
Right.
The thing that happened with Taylor Swift, I mean, God forbid that happens again, but...
Exactly.
Why are they, like, praising him?
Right. I mean...
He's way too big-headed for his own good, and admittedly, I liked his earlier material, especially like Graduation, and even like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Like, but that's his music, you know. I like Michael Jackson's music, but I didn't like him as a person.
No, he did.
So why are you praising this guy for being a complete dick to somebody who didn't even deserve that treatment?
Well, also look at it like this. Well, then this was the fucking kicker. They didn't do a tribute to Prince nor to David Bowie. Okay, these two guys. Major fucking place. One of the giants that made your fucking show or your network what it was. You know, Prince's music videos, I mean, over the years.
Man.
So many, dude.
And I know we're doing this episode on Bowie, but we can even go on how great Prince was.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we was talking about Bowie, too. They didn't do... I mean, Bowie, he was the first one to do that quote-unquote new romantic that eventually Adam Ant did and all those lame fucking one-hit wonder bands from the 80s did. You know, Kajagoogoo and all that crap.
The Hoople, you know, and if it wasn't for... Well, okay, I know that's kind of like a different artist, but you got me thinking about one-hit wonders and David Bowie. Now, if it wasn't for all the young dudes, which David Bowie wrote,
right,
they wouldn't even be on the map.
Now, you... Okay... Can't talk about the Hoople like that, dude. I just can't let you do that.
I'm not denying that they were a good band. I'm just saying they wouldn't be anywhere near...
Do you know that fucking Hendrix is actually considered a one-hit wonder? Oh. Seriously. All Along the Watchtower was his only number one song, if you can believe that. And same with Zeppelin. Zeppelin only had one number one song. And I think that was Whole Lotta Love. So, there you go. But that's the MTV thing. We were talking about Bowie. You know, Bowie did some really awesome videos. Very much ahead of its time. He was even doing that shit in the 70s, but they didn't really have any avenue to put it. And if you looked at a lot of those early videos in MTV, a lot of those probably were about 5 or 6 years old. So, I mean, I think the one that he did for China Girl, I think that video was shot like in 78 or 79. And it didn't even go out till like 81.
Oh, wow.
So, but yeah, I mean, one last thing. Now, when I was growing up, even with the MTV Movie Awards, they would always do like this top 500 videos and stuff, and then it would lead into there. And they used to do the same thing for the music awards. They would do some kind of, you know something special. But the last thing, there's no bands anymore. The rock category itself, I think, was 21 Pilots and something of that nature. And I remember the girl, I think I told you guys this story, but there was a girl at work, and she was like, "Oh, Jay, you really need to check out 21 Pilots." I'm like, "I'll tell you what, I'll listen to 21 Pilots if you listen to Failure." Okay? I said, I really think you'd probably like...
I mean, she's getting the better end of the deal here, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I did. I went home, and I tried. I don't know what song it was. I listened maybe like 10 or 15 seconds of it, and then I just turned it off. I said, I don't see how this is rock or alternative. This sounds like rap with, like a band behind it or something of that nature.
See, the thing about 21 Pilots, at least for me, is I've heard several songs, because several songs are big right now. Mm-hmm. And it's like I don't even know what band I'm listening to, because one song sounds completely different from the next, and like their voices don't even sound the same. It's as generic as it gets, number one. I feel like the music is just subpar. If subpar was in the dictionary, you'd see their album right next to it, okay? Right. That's how subpar it seems to me. And then, secondly, because the music's so different, it just seems like the band, I think it's a duo, I'm not sure, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it just seems like they're struggling way too hard to find their own sound. They don't even have an identity as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I don't know if you would consider that emo, but the way the guy sings, I hate that vocal style. It always reminds me of that pop punk shit from the early millennium, like the Fall Out Boys or the My Chemical Romance. All that. I hate that fucking sound. You know, and that's the way, even like when he wasn't rapping, he was singing, that's the way he sounded to me. I'm like, God, no. I can, like, throw that out the window. Let's go play ski shooting.
It's not even rap. It's just like, it's like he's trying to scat.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Well, and when I...
Let me see how hard I can try to be Red Hot Chili Peppers today.
Yeah. Well, I'll end this with this right here, but when I was talking about the rock thing, my buddy had posted something on Facebook, and he's like, you know, where's the rock, and blah, blah, blah. And I told him, I said, you know, I think the last time I actually watched a music video for awards from MTV, I think it was the same year that Foo Fighters had checked out the entire presidential suite at some hotel. And they had, you know, CeeLo was up in there, they had Mastodon was up in there. I think Surge, I don't think it was the entire System of a Down guys, but even though I know Shavo was there, because Mastodon was there, and that was the same time that Brent and Shavo and whoever Shavo's buddy was, when he got hit in the head and, you know, he had dementia or something like that. That was the same night. And then the time before that, the only time I watched was when the Raconteurs were the quote-unquote house band, and they would have, like, Billy Gibbons come out and play, or, you know, there were other people that came.
Jeez, that is like a party of all parties.
Yeah, dude, and they would only play, like, little bits of stuff, you know. It wouldn't be, like, full-on songs. They'd play maybe, like, 1 or 2 minutes or something. You know, it's just like, okay, we're back from the break. Da, 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 da. Okay, we're going to break. You know, Sharp Dressed Man, or fucking, you know, Jesus Just Left Chicago, or something like that. And people are like, what's that? But anyway, that's the way I think about the MTV Music Awards, or even the movie awards. I mean, fuck it, it's all lame, but that's just my take on it. And
was the MTV Music Awards, was that the same show where Eminem climbed to the top of the stage and just sat there?
No, that was Tim from Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, crap, you're right. No,
Eminem was the one who was telling him to jump.
Yeah, that's right.
And like Kid Rock, and then it said something along the lines of like, it's okay, man, it's for world peace, don't jump. And then Fred Durst was like, I don't know, but he's like, that's pretty fucking cool, dude. But yeah, well, he did it. He I guess Michael Moore was sitting next to him, and he told him, he was like, I'm just going to go jump on that stage here in a second. And he went right up there, and nobody really saw him, because it was like J-Lo and somebody else were doing a presentation, and he just more or less just like walked right behind him and got up on the thing. Nobody like you go back on the camera thing and you could see it, but nobody was paying attention to that. that was the great part about it.
Oh yeah, but I mean, stuff like that just doesn't even happen anymore.
No.
I mean, going back to the Kanye thing, I think that was the biggest eventful thing to really happen, the most noteworthy thing, because I mean, that was kind of rude.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Tim getting up on the stage, you know, rude, but for a completely different reason. Yeah. You know, and he should have jumped, in my opinion. That would have been hilarious.
Well, you remember when Nirvana, they won an award, and they actually had a Michael Jackson lookalike go up and receive their award. And then he was going in the back, I guess, where the band was, and Flavor Flav was back there. And he actually thought it was Michael Jackson. Mm-hmm. He's like, yo, Mike, man, what's up? He's, dude, I got my catering. Can we take a picture? And he sat there, took a picture with the troop, you know, like, hey, well, Michael Jackson. But
it just doesn't seem like anything like that happens anymore. No. You know? Nothing that makes you go like, that was awesome. You know?
That was awesome.
It's just bland. All the nominees, bland.
Yeah. Well, music, like I've said before, music suffers in America. I think over in Europe they have a more love for our music than we do. I mean, we're all about Taylor Swift and about the Miley Cyrus of the world, and we're not really about bands anymore. So,
or musical quality as it is. Yeah. You know, you brought up Miley Cyrus. That makes me think of the album that she did recently with the Flaming Lips. And that's a band known for being super creative, super out there, and just all around great. So then they go and do something like that. It makes me think like, well, they're just kind of selling out. Their mindset has shifted into, well, this is just something that's going to make us money. Because it doesn't really sound like the music kind of supports what I once knew that band to be.
Well, even so, like we were talking about the Flaming Lips. On a lot of the Flaming Lips earlier records, I don't know if it was just the drummer or if Wayne or somebody knew how to mic a band really good, but the drums were really fucking super heavy and super thick. And the production-wise of the band, especially for them at that time, was fucking amazing. But yet they couldn't sell shit. Their records are great, their sound's great, they are fucking great, but they just weren't transcending anywhere. And that was, we're talking about thickness. That's something that doesn't happen in nowadays music. It's fucking terrible.
No, and it's kind of weird because there is thickness in a lot of popular music, like, electronic dance music with, building up beats that are just kind of like, this sounds like every other song in this genre I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But that's overly thick. There's got to be middle ground in some kind of creative direction. And it doesn't have to be in a band, it doesn't have to be in a group, but at least someone has to get in that mindset again, and I think a lot of people still are, but they're few and far between. Yeah, and that's just the truth.
And that to me, I really think that true rock and roll, so to speak, is in the underground. Is back in the underground. It's not the mainstream anymore, and it's back in the underground. And I've seen you wear this shirt. Okay, I know you went and seen the show. What we're about ready to talk about here, the Baroness Show. That's another band that I feel should be bigger than what they fucking are. Mm-hmm. They should be a not Miley Cyrus, but that plateau.
Yep. And just to clarify, earlier this week, that's what we're about to talk about. I went to go see Baroness.
Now tell me about the show, Lance. I want to know because I wasn't able to go, and that wasn't because I didn't want to go. It's just I didn't know the band that well. I'm getting into them, which we'll talk about, but I want to hear about the show.
Well, to start, the night before the show, okay, I'm looking at my phone at night, like any other normal person would do, and I see, like, pop-up event. John Baisley is going to be at a local record shop. Park Avenue CDs is our, like, local big record shop, and I'm like, 4:30 to 6, he's going to be over there. All right.
I love Park Ave. I really love that.
Beautiful store. If you're ever in the area, check it out. It's awesome.
Great posters.
But what the event was he was going to be there talking to people, but they were also, giving out free drinks, and they had limited prints that John Baisley does, because for those who don't know, John Baisley is not only the frontman and guitarist of Baroness, but he also does amazing artwork. I think it's similar to Boneface, but it's way prettier.
Now when I look at your shirt, and I mean, I've seen these. What would you call them? Elves? What does he call them?
Well, I don't know what he would call them, but they're
because it looks like that dark, like that.
His style is nothing like anything else, and the reason I compare him to Boneface is because it's not as like rigid and cartoony as Boneface, but it's still got a humanistic and naturey feel to it. And for those who don't know Boneface, he actually did a lot of the artwork for Queens of the Stone Age's last record, like Clockwork. And he does a lot of solo stuff as well. I mean, you can go buy his prints, but...
Because the face looks like from the Dark Crystal movie. I mean, I know they were like creatures, but these look more human, but they look like the same kind of creatures.
Right. They're not Alfian, I don't think. I mean, I've stared at his artwork for a while, but John Baisley's style is, like I was saying, humanistic and filled with nature, but it's all centered around women. They're more or less naked, but covered up by like plants or animals or some other type of like I don't know, a tree. And that's literally it, but he goes so far with it. Like, take for example Cavella Talk's debut album. That's two brunette women, and it's just their heads, but a big owl is like covering them up, and the back is like a forest, and there's plant life everywhere. That's just an example of some of his work, but every Baroness album he's done the artwork for, they all look similar. But the thing about Baroness is their albums are colors. So the first album, and before that, it wasn't colors. It was like EP 1, 2, and then they had a split with a band called Unpersons. But
have you seen the cover art for EP 1 or 2?
I own them. Yeah.
Okay. Do they look like
that?
No,
okay. Nothing like that. But when he put his style into the artwork, that is. It's just as I described. And the first album was red.
Great album.
Second being blue. And then they had the yellow and green double album was Baroness's third studio session. And then just last year they put out purple.
Right.
So they had, at the record store, they had limited prints of his for various albums. Like, there was a print for the Metallica shirt that he did for the Four Horsemen, which, I don't know if you knew that. He did an artwork for the Four Horsemen, and you can buy a shirt of it, but it says Metallica on it.
Uh-huh.
But it's John Baisley's artwork.
Is that the one where, like, someone's on the horse and has the four horsemen, or like the four heads?
As skeletons.
Yes. Oh, I love that one.
Yep, that's John Baisley.
Wow, okay, that's pretty fucking sick.
Mm-hmm. And
I would buy that shirt.
They had a print for one of the Black Tusk albums. But the reason these events happen is because those prints you can't buy at the show.
Oh, no.
Only a couple are being sold, as well as, like, you know, shirts and their albums and stuff. But there was tons. It was awesome.
How much was the metallic one, do you know?
$60. Because it's an original print.
But was it a shirt or was it an actual poster? It
was a print. It was like a poster.
Oh, okay. I still would have bought it.
But you can actually... I've been to the mall, and they have that Metallica shirt at, like, Hot Topic and stuff.
Really?
Yeah. But the event was cool. You know, everybody at the record store was obviously chill. Mm-hmm. But when I got there, he wasn't there yet.
Oh.
John wasn't there yet. So I'm just looking through records, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I look up, and he's just instantly there. I didn't see him walk in. I didn't hear the little bell go off or whatever. Mm-hmm. He was just there. So I was like, this John over there. This is John Baisley.
Yeah.
So people are, you know, starting to walk up to him and shit. And so I go around, and because I see a line starting to form, so I'm like, all right, I actually have a couple albums with me because I want him to sign.
Right.
And he's talking with some people, and then me and my friend are the next two people in line to go.
It was Debbie, right?
Yeah, my friend Debbie is the one who went to this event with me and went to the show. We're the next people in line, and then I see these people come in the store, mostly older, you know, some look like, you know, mid-30s or whatever, but there's a group of about 5 people.
Okay.
So they just kind of come up, and John turns around, he's like, hey, like, and so I was like, what? These people just kind of came in the store, like, did they not see this line? But, I'd later find out that that's close friends to the band, because they had moved to the area from Savannah, but they were, you know, they went to
Baroness lived here?
No. Baroness's friends moved from Savannah to here, because they're from Savannah.
All right, okay.
But they were there from the beginning. They saw their shows, you know, when they were kind of just nothing, like a bar band.
Right.
So obviously he's going to want to pay them some mind because, you know, they're coming out to the show. They want to see, you know, their friends. You know, they're close. So I waited, and, you know, and then we finally got to talk to him. I asked him a couple questions, just generally, like, Paul Bearer opened up the show, and so I was asking him, like, so, you know, Paul Bearer's a great band, you know, what made you want to, you know, book them for the tour? And he was like, well, you know, we've been a fan for a while. We really dig their sound, so they were available when we were trying to pick somebody. So I was like, oh man, is that? Because I'm sure a lot of people ask him that question already. So I was like, but he was super chill, man. He actually had a cast on because he's still recovering from the bus accident.
When did that happen? The bus.
2012.
And he's still in the cast? And it's 2016?
It was bad.
Was it
the bus
really?
accident was awful. Like, they fell off the side of a cliff. Basically, the bus fell off a cliff, and that's why they had to do a lineup change, because 2 of the members were so badly hurt they just couldn't go on, or they just decided we're not going to do this anymore. Right. But their other guitar players
there was a brothers. Like, there was like one was a drummer and one was a bass player, one was a drummer and one was a guitar player, something like that.
Yeah, the drummer and the bass player took off.
Oh, okay.
So they had to replace those, but the guitar players stuck around.
Right.
But obviously, what happened to John was pretty bad, and
you can still play the guitar.
There. Oh yeah, and I'll get to that too.
Okay.
But he was wearing the cast when I saw him. So, you know, I was thinking to myself, like, man, that must have been bad. So, and he broke, like, I think he broke his legs or some ribs or something too. But the only thing he had wrapped up was his arm. But he was cool. I got him to sign the Yellow Green album, and I got him to sign Purple. And we took a picture.
I've seen that one.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
It was on the record store's Instagram and stuff.
Yeah. Now I've seen that they had opened up for Deftones one time.
Actually, that's one of the things that me and Debbie talked to him about.
Okay, well, what did you say about that? What does he talk?
Because how that came into the question was we were talking about House of Blues in downtown Disney. he was saying like how that place is kind of crappy because they'll just tell bands no because your name sounds too evil or you have a song that sounds like this, but you know they've opened up for Meshuggah, they've opened up for Deftones at that venue, so they know.
Yeah.
But they've toured with Deftones, they've toured with a lot of like big metal bands at that venue, not some of the bands that they have toured with previously, like Mastodon. Obviously, they've toured together, and
even sometimes John at times sounds a little Mastodon-ish, you know, in his voice,
especially the earlier two albums.
Absolutely,
especially the Sludge albums.
Now, when you're talking about my cousin actually saw Guar at House of Blues. I think it was like 2000, 2001.
I don't like. How does that even happen?
And that was the funny thing was. When they went to go see him, when I mean Mooch and Benny, they went to go see him, and I said, yeah, they used to play out the fucking House of Blues, and he's like, yeah, well, House of Blues said, like, I guess they didn't like pretty much clean them after their show, because it gets really messy, so, you know, but yeah, I mean, dude, their imagery is pretty fucked up.
Yeah, but they'll let a band called Anthrax play there, but they didn't let Exodus play there. They didn't let High on Fire play there.
Or Machine Head.
You know? Or Machine Head.
But they'll let Cradle of Filth play there.
Slayer hasn't played there since I think maybe 2003 or 4. If Slayer plays anywhere, it's usually either Lakeland or it's at the Hard Rock. The only way they're going to play at the Hard Rock, they have to have other big name bands like that.
Like Anthrax and Death Angel, that tour that's coming up.
Exactly.
But yeah, you know, great guy. You know, you can tell he has a big heart. Mm-hmm. John Baisley, he was just great. You know, he spent a lot of time with us. I was surprised.
Wow.
We were talking with him for a good 5 minutes.
Now was that the first time you ever seen him live ever? Okay.
Yep. So after the event, we split. You know, It was like an hour or so before the show, but we got there, and it was about 30 minutes of us waiting around. Like I went and got a shirt.
The
Social.
Plaza. Oh, was that Social? That was at Plaza.
It was going to be at the Beecham, but I saw it had moved to the Social. So my first thought was like, does that mean they're not selling enough tickets? Like, damn,
right.
That sucks. But on the flip side, it made the show a lot more personal. Mm-hmm. You know, we were a lot closer to the band, so 30 minutes was enough time for us to kind of settle in. You know, I grabbed a beer, I got a shirt. And then,
did you get one of those posters from the signing thing, or did you just have them sign your stuff?
No,
okay,
because those prints were pricey.
Okay,
all of them were at least $60.
Well, I mean, I just didn't know if you were like, man, maybe I should get that and just say screw the shirt. And then you're like, I don't know.
I thought about actually getting one just because, but I don't know. All of them were awesome, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
Well, ever since probably the 3D show of the Primus one, ever since then, I'm into posters. Like, I gotta get a poster from that show. It doesn't matter.
But Primus is one of those bands, they make posters specific for shows, so you gotta get that.
Yeah. Well, what pissed me off was, I remember seeing the poster before I went down to the area where the band was going to be, and I was like, all right, I'll just get it afterwards. I go back, and it's like, oh, yeah, it sold out 10 minutes after we opened the doors. I said, damn. And I remember I actually put it on my Facebook page, or, as one of my pictures or something, just to say, I went to that show. I still want to find a copy if somebody has it out there. So if somebody has a copy of the 3D show from the Orlando, I'd pay for it. But anyway, so the show was good? Amazing?
Yeah, so,
tits and ass?
I want to talk about Paul Bearer first.
Okay.
Because, honestly, they were louder than Baroness.
Well, really?
They were loud, dude. Paul Bearer is a doom metal band. I don't know where they're from.
I guarantee I know where they got the name from. They probably got the name from the Paul Bearer who used to walk the Undertaker down to the ring.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I don't know, but that's what I'm thinking.
Either way, it's a great name for a band.
Hell yeah.
It's a great name for a doom band.
Mm-hmm.
And they have 2 albums out. The first one came out, I think, in 2012. Yeah, 2012. Star One Extinction, good debut, great debut. And then they had demos from 2009 you could still get. The last album came out in 2014, and that was Foundations of something. Either way, both albums are great. I've listened to them a fair bit, and that is a live band. They are a live band, hands down, man. Let me just start off by saying that they sound pretty similar as far as like, okay, the songs sound just like they do on the record, but it's like amplified, and it just seems like there's a lot more emotion put in there.
Well, it's like the Who. I mean, the Who made good albums, but their forte was live, dude. I mean,
that's why my favorite Who album is Live at Leeds. Like,
absolutely.
I love Tommy, love Who's Next, but I agree, live band. And
I mean, I've already said it many times, Tommy from the Live at Leeds is amazing. Definitely check it out all the way through.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
But, just amazing band. And I actually met Paul Bear at the pizza shop after the show. Like, there's a pizza place, like, right around the corner. Me and Debbie we were just there. And
chilling.
Paul Bear was there, too. So I went up and I said hello, just kind of made small talk. But you heard it here first. Paul Bear's new album is coming out Q1 of 2017.
Okay.
So
2017.
I heard it from the man himself, lead singer. So it's happening, party people.
Nice.
So that's something to look forward to, and just I'm gonna end it on that note. Great loud band to open up another amazing live band, and that's Baroness. Mm-hmm. They played the entire Purple record in like a really weird mixed order with like some other, older songs thrown in there too. But the thing I appreciated the very most was that in between songs, they were always doing something.
Okay.
Like the bass player had a synth in front of him, so he was like just kind of screwing around with it, like doing some weird stuff, and then John would be playing like a really like gentle riff in the background that's really slow, and then it builds up into another song.
Right.
Man,
that's what I was going to ask you, because like I was going to ask you, like, were they one of those guys like, hey, this is so and so, and they play the song like, oh, hey, I hope you guys like that one.
Sometimes, okay. They weren't doing that the entire time, but they did it for most of the show, so it felt like sections were kind of grouped together. So that if one song would like end like pretty like abrasively, they'd cut it and then be like, how's everybody doing? We love Orlando. And actually, John brought up the Disney thing during the show, too.
Nice.
People were shouting out, like, yeah, fuck that. But then they just kick right back into it, and they played a decent hunk of the older material, like first two albums, like we were talking about.
Right.
They played a lot off Yellow and Green, which made me happy because that's my favorite record. Mm-hmm. And then, obviously, entire Purple. But
it sounds like a long show.
And you know how I was talking about John being in the cast?
Right.
When he came out, he didn't have the cast on, but he had a brace on his elbow. Mm-hmm. So, and he could shred, dude.
Nice.
That guy was tearing it up. So, even for a guy whose arm is like, he probably can't feel half the damn thing. Mm-hmm. They killed it.
Nice.
The whole band is good. I talked to like every member, at least for a little bit after the show, but not John, because John just kind of took off.
Well, yeah, he probably thought
he darted as soon as that was done. Man.
He probably thought like, hey, well, I already did the record store thing, so I think that's pretty much, that's my job for the day.
I actually have been keeping my eye out, because it seems like he's doing a pop-up event like every other show.
Oh, that's cool, man.
So we were one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, well, hey, you like you said, you were one of the lucky ones. But I remember you've been telling me about Baroness. I don't know if it was ever since we became friends, but you were trying to tell me like, you need to listen to this song, listen. And one night I was sitting there, I was like, all right, well, I'll go and I'll listen to the debut, which is the Red Album. And I remember we were talking about something, and I just out of the blue I said, the Red Album's fucking tits. And you're like, oh yeah. And then it was like 2 weeks you were trying, you need to listen to Blue Album. So I went ahead and listened to Blue Album. And actually, that was the last time, for the last podcast, you were telling me to listen to Blue Album. So I had actually listened to it since the last podcast. And I do like it better than the Red Album, which you even predicted there. You're like, oh, dude, you're going to love
And the thing about it is, so it's pretty much confirmed that you like the sludgy Baroness. But,
yeah.
And it's not that they would like totally throw out that sound. Mm-hmm. They sound more sludgy on Purple than they did on Yellow and Green. But it sounds like they're kind of, I don't even know how to explain it really. It's not that they lost their heaviness. That's not the case. But they're not like straight up sludge. It's kind of like a progressive rock meets sludge metal kind of thing.
Well, it's the Hunter and Once More Around the Sun.
Yeah, except in a way, and I'm not just in the Hunter, because we've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. We both love that album. Mm-hmm. I think Baroness did it a little better. Just as far as like trying to go in a more straightforward direction.
No comments.
I mean, I'm not knocking anybody. I'm not knocking anybody.
No.
But...
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm not that fan yet of Baroness where I'm like, dude, like this song is about... I mean, I thought it was really awesome that I could tell you, like, hey, two brothers were in the band, were the original members, and they were in the band. And why is John the only... Oh, well, the bus accident. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then, like I told you before, like...
Yeah, but they got a new guitarist when Yellow and Green came around, and he was
like,
involved in that bus
08,
accident.
I think, wasn't he? He's been in the band since 08, I think. That's what I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, and he didn't leave.
No. Well, he probably knows where the bread and butter is. Well...
So just to kind of wrap things up, put a little, pretty bow tie on this. Mm-hmm. It was just awesome. If Baroness comes in your area, if they haven't, you know what? By the time we're recording this, their tour's done.
Well...
I'm pretty sure. At least the first leg,
hey,
but I could be wrong.
Well, there's always the internet. There's always the albums, red and blue.
And it's not like they're never going to tour again.
Exactly.
Obviously, they're definitely hitting the studio. Maybe next year, but they're going to tour the hell out of this coming year.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe there might be where they might get on somebody else's tour. Maybe do a little support, or they might actually come back and play another show. Who knows? It's anybody's guessed. So, well. I think we should go ahead and just take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll start the second part of our trilogy, The White Duke.
Stay tuned.
High top fades and gold chains, highly addictive, my flow's cocaine. I'm syringed for your dope veins, highly flammable, I'm like propane. So check your prompter, I'm a high-class doctor, but you don't see me with a fresh pair of binoculars. My flow is the illest, the realest, I'm clinically ill. If rap is a tool, then I'm technically skilled. If rap is a drug, I'm providing the pill. I mean pipe needle, incisions, addictive decisions. My mind's a well thought out precision. People hurry just to sit down and listen. My soul's hot like fire in the kitchen. I take showers made out of gold. I flush diamonds into my bowl. I put hard rocks into my soul. A rose in the concrete. My roots are full grown. A very sick rapper. My aids are full blown. I'm the invisible force to help you push on. Blessed with the S on my chest. Sometimes I'm too strong. So if it's warfare, you better strap your boots on. Emotions explode when you feel cold and alone. But you gotta be swift with the O in the zone. Demons fantasize and terrorize till they spark your inner flame. You're like pressure that can't be contained as they try and maintain you in some chains, but you're ever changing, no you can't remain. Lights from above, strength from within, awaken your inner spirit, the moment is now as you live it. Your feet planted down in your pivot. Michelangelo pictures so vividly. Fire and passion from your energy. Mystical falls created by a centipede. But now you're a butterfly. But now you're a butterfly. Tribulations crumble and fall. A mighty tower standing so tall. Terror from an avalanche crawling and destroying while they're running and they calling and they bawling. Fire from a mountain shaking them up. Movement on the ground, waking them up. No wings on your back, no ladder that you crawl as you slowly taking them up.
And we're back. That was my boy Yella doing a little spoken word. He's out there. He's a force of nature. I mean, he's not. He's no famous guy yet, but he is a force of nature. He is somebody who's going to definitely be reckoned with.
And all links to his information are down in the description below.
All right. Now, this is part 2 of our Bowie trilogy. It's the Thin White Duke, quote-unquote, era. We're going to start off with Diamond Dogs, because I feel like the way we left it with Ziggy, Diamond Dogs is a perfect example of... It's still Ziggy, but it's not Ziggy. It's like I said...
Because leaving, right where we left off, we were saying Ziggy killed himself. Rock and roll suicide, right?
Right.
But at the same time... His Thin White Duke era, that personification, he was wearing a little bit less flashy outfits. He wasn't as draggy, per se, but, the hairstyle was still similar. In the Diamond Dog album, pretty similar. The makeup was, relatively the same, so I could definitely see where you're coming from.
I think it was kind of like, Ziggy going on holiday. I always describe it like Ziggy going on holiday and saying, you know what, darling, just recreate me kind of deal. So he cut off the mullet, he did everything, and all of a sudden he's in these suits, he's combing his hair, looking so much. It's like, that was Ziggy? Are you serious? It doesn't even look like him.
It's not Ziggy anymore.
No.
It's Bowie. And
it's Bowie.
It's a damn shame because, his name is on Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. And like we were talking about last time we recorded, people wouldn't see him as Bowie.
No.
But at the same time, that was his art. That's what he wanted to do. So he kind of killed off the title that he had, and now he's Ziggy in Bowie form.
Yes. This is where, I remember when I was first coming up to this whole era, so to speak, I really was very hesitant because Ziggy was such a powerful, had such a powerful impact on me in musically. But, looking at this, you could see where Bowie became an artist. That he wasn't just a one-trick pony. He wanted to go out and do other things. He wanted to create different types of music, so to speak, like the American music is what he referred to it. Like he wanted to shy away from, the British type of thing. And he wanted to come to America and make music.
Yeah, and he was trying hard to push his name over here in the States.
Absolutely. I mean, in like with Diamond Dogs, I mean the title, the lead song, the song that everybody knows, Rebel Rebel,
which, what a riff!
Yeah,
I just gotta say that, what a riff in that song.
Tramp, I love you so. Dun, 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 dun. But that was probably that could have been Ziggy saying like, "Goodbye, y'all. It's time to go. I'm going, back home, so to speak. And here's this other guy."
Yep.
And that's the chameleon about Bowie.
And not to mention, the whole lineup of the band was changed.
Absolutely. Well, actually, no. The piano player stayed the same.
Oh, that's right.
The
piano. He came on at like the tail end.
Yeah.
Of the Ziggy thing.
I think he did. I think he played a little bit on Aladdin Sane, if I'm not mistaken. But I know he was definitely a touring member. And it was one of those things. Everybody got fired but him.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh wow, okay." So, but Diamond Dogs, it was like I said, it was what started with the whole flashy, dressy, probably even the start of his cocaine addiction.
Probably, but
was around that time.
That wouldn't really come into the picture, at least in the public eye, until albums like Station to Station. Right. Which we're going to get to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then after Diamond Dogs, when he did his final farewell, so to speak, about Ziggy, he comes out with Young Americans, which is a total and unique take on it. I mean, it's
blue-eyed soul masterpiece.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, listen to the whole thing all the way through, and it's just like...
it's like David Bowie goes to church in the South.
Exactly. And he got over so well on that, man. Like, it's just fame, Young Americans, all that soul, the backing, the soul singers.
There's a cover on that album, too.
Yeah.
There's a cover Across the River.
From the Beatles.
Or not Across the River, Across the Universe.
Yeah, the Beatles one. Which you said that later wound up being on Let It Be.
Yeah. It was on some kind of like charity album prior, but it found its way on the actual record.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, like, even like, what was your take on Young Americans? I mean, I'm...
Here's the thing about Bowie is, and we might have said this already, but it's like he can jump from one thing to another and still be fresh. And, it doesn't sound like he's trying to rip anybody off. It still sounds like Bowie.
Right.
Like, he would do like an industrial sounding album, I'm Afraid of Americans was the big one off that. And then the last album he ever did, Black Star, sounds like nothing he ever did in the past. It is completely off the wall, experimental, avant-garde, from front to back, man.
Right.
And not to mention he was pretty inspired by a lot of avant-garde artists at the time. But I think that's the case with Young Americans because of course he's influenced by soul music, and gospel music on this. But it doesn't sound like he's, trying to find a completely new identity. It doesn't sound like he's ripping at anybody off. it sounds like Bowie's doing soul music, and it's good. It's
good.
all good.
Yeah. My thing was actually like seeing him more or less become like a conductor. You know how he would bring in the saxophone guys, he'd bring in the trumpet players. Like, okay, I want you guys to sit here and here. Okay, you girls are going to stand over here. He would map out the entire place of the room for a better sound.
He orchestrated his personnel to a T.
To a T, dude. And if I don't know if he was a diva like that. Like the guy's like, "Hey, I can't play that." Okay, get out of here, darling. I don't know if it was like that, but I mean, he was one of the first. I mean, even like going back to the Lou Reed Transformer album, you can definitely hear an influence from Bowie on that record.
Yep, and Lust for Life.
Absolutely. I mean, Bowie plays the piano on the whole album, and he toured with that shit too. But going back to Young Americans, he did play a lot of the keyboard or in the keyboards, but a lot of the piano and stuff like that, and more or less sing. He didn't really play the guitar, I don't think, ever during that era. I could be wrong, but I don't really think he did. And then, of course, he ended the album ends with Fame, and the way he was dressing and the way he was presenting himself, it was like that Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous kind of deal, like he was that originator of, I'm driving a Rolls Royce, I'm, with this model chick or what have you.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody was really, I mean, yeah, I guess in the true, like Zeppelin might have, Zeppelin were doing it or Sabbath was doing it, but not the way Bowie was doing it. Like I said, Lifestyles and Rich and Famous, the billionaires, the ones who are like,
the people that open doors for the people that open doors.
Exactly. And that's the way he was. Now, was it all true or was it all a hoax? I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know.
No.
I mean,
that's completely up for debate, but I don't really think Bowie is one to be a show, like in a fake sense. I don't think he's one to be fake.
I think when he gets into certain personas, or like he changes his appearance or the music, I think he goes full force into that era or that style of that time, and he goes into it. And then once he's done with that, whether it's an album, 2 albums, 3 albums, 4 albums, when he does the next persona, the whole thing changes again. The sound does, his look does. That's like we were talking about Tool. I said, have you ever noticed, like when you look at Maynard through the years, especially like Anima or Lateralis, like he changes his appearance every time. He never dresses the same.
That reminds me of like those corny freaking articles on like Loudwire that are all like, 10 of Maynard's most famous outfits,
Yeah. I like stuff. That was what kind of got me into Tool. Was like I seen this. I think it was on Circus Magazine, and on the back of Circus Magazine there was this picture of this guy dressed in drag with this white face painted, and I said, that looks pretty fucking wicked. I don't know why, it just looks really wicked. So I picked it up, and then from that to probably hearing Judith for the first time from APC, I literally got the Murder and Undertow on the same day, and was changed. And then the next one I got was Anima, because of course APC only had one album out, but Tool had lots of albums.
Yeah.
So, but back to Bowie, I mean, he changed with everything, and the Young Americans, he was like this flashy Duke guy, that didn't have to worry. He didn't seem like he was worried about money.
He didn't self-identify with anything else but himself.
Right.
There was nobody like David Bowie.
No.
Not then and not now.
No.
People try to be, I can think of a couple names, but just he was the originator. And like I was saying earlier, like he could jump from one thing to the next and you knew it was Bowie even though no albums really sounded the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, even his first album, when you listen to the first album, and then you go and just like how you said, you go and listen to Young Americans. I mean, there was like 4 or 5 360s he did between that and that, so to speak. But yeah, Young Americans, Diamond Dogs, a really good way to start the Duke out. I mean, I think it led into what would later become Station to Station. Station to Station was just as important of an album as The Young Americans was. As far as the music goes, the stage persona, whatever what he became, it was just important.
It was a shorter record, but it was a more impactful record, so to speak. That was a soul album, and now he's going back into that progressive sound.
Almost gothic. I mean, it was very gothic for its time. And there was no gothic at the time. So Bowie started goth rock. If you want to, if you really think about it, even I'm sure Robert Smith even will probably even say that Bowie was one of his heroes.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
I mean, he has to be. He has to be there for many guys. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. But before we do, we're actually recording on the 15th anniversary of 9/11, and I thought we would take a moment and remember the ones that passed on that day, and just say thank you to the men and women who fight for this country and make sure that we stay safe. So let's take a moment of silence for that.
So continuing on with the Station to Station thing, that is the last album that he would be as the Thin White Duke. That was the last Thin White Duke record.
Yes.
And this came out around the same time as that movie he starred in, The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Right. Okay.
So he was still portraying that character in that film. Brian Eno,
yes,
still taking charge on this. And
well, that was actually his first album he produced of Bowie was Station to Station.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And this was right before what we're going to say for next time. It was the Berlin Trilogy. Right. And we were mentioning before how that he was shying away from drugs. But this era, this is the era where Bowie was on the most cocaine that he was on for his entire life. And actually, to quote him, he said it was astronomical. That's how much cocaine he was doing. He was extremely dependent, and
well, you can definitely tell in the album, because this was the album that I really didn't listen to much. I mean, I did listen to a little bit of it, but I didn't get into it like I did with Young Americans. It was very dark.
It's dark, but
it's very dark.
You were saying that it's gothic, but it's also got the most like funky sound to it that he would have up until that time.
Yeah.
I mean, take the title track for example. Like, it starts off, really slow. There's a piano building it up, and then that bass comes in like bodo. They just ride that forever, dude.
Yeah.
It just
that opening song, that 10 minute that was really awesome. I was like, man, that is pretty good. I was very
amazing track.
I was very.
Side note, that song's been covered a lot, even by the Melvins. The Melvins did it on their cover album that they released a few years ago.
Know that.
Yeah. Everybody Loves Sausage or something like that. There's also covers of like Black Flag in there.
Right.
These were his golden years, quote unquote, as the title suggests. One of the songs on the record, Golden Years. And David Bowie said that during the recording sessions of this record, he was on so much cocaine that he didn't ever remember any of those sessions after the fact. Yeah.
That's a lot.
So the entire record is pretty much a blur to him, but like you were saying before, that extremely influential. Shorter record, I mean, there's only, I think, 5 songs on the record. No, 6, sorry.
6.
There's 6 tracks on the album. And
I think it's a really good, prequel to what would become the Berlin Trilogy, which, of course, we're going to talk about in the next episode.
Yeah, I mean, if this album were to be recorded in Berlin, I think it would fit in very, very well. Right. I mean, because I think this album and the Low album, which was a little more ambient, I think they do share a pretty similar vibe.
Yeah,
even though one was styles. On a lot of drugs and one wasn't.
Right.
So,
but I think there was still... If there wasn't cocaine, there was definitely something. Maybe a little bit of alcohol. Because I mean, when he went to go do the, I don't think he thought about it as the Berlin Trilogy. I think he just was like, hey, I want to go live in Berlin for now.
Yeah, and he was just recording music out there, and mind you, was with Iggy.
Yeah,
but
it's like they said before. I mean, they both went over here, or they both went to Berlin, which I guess at the time was quote unquote the heroin capital of the world, and Bowie was fresh out of rehab, and so was Iggy. And did they completely stay sober? I don't know. I've never really dug into that.
No,
it's never really seemed interesting to me. At least not yet. But maybe I will to just catch up maybe for the next episode. But yeah, I think Station to Station, and that was actually where instead of wearing the regular leisure suits or those really stylistic suits, he just started wearing the white suit. That's where the white.
Yeah, and not just that outfit,
because
I know what you're talking about.
Might have been something from the cocaine might have been like an ode to the White Duke. You think that the White Duke might have been an ode to cocaine? Because he was like how you said, he was under a lot, on the influence of a lot of cocaine at the time.
Right. So it got worse and worse up until he left for Berlin. But that, I think part of it had to do with the LA area, because this was the last time that he did record in LA.
Okay.
So, I mean, of course, trying to fit in with the Americans ever since Ziggy Stardust, I'm sure we influenced him a lot. And it shows, even in his later material, even after the Berlin Trilogy, I think that had a lot to do with his problems. I mean, I can't say it for sure, obviously. There's no real telling. He never said himself, but, I mean, you got to think about the time and the place.
Right.
The time and the place. This is California
like
in the
75?
mid 1970s,
Yeah.
76 in particular.
Yeah.
Because the album came out early 76.
And that was like, so that was the heydays of cocaine, like how you were saying, like how he was like under a lot of fucking cocaine. That does seem accurate. So.
At the same time, though, there's a dependency factor you got to put in there, because it's not that he could let it go, and just be like, oh, okay, well, I did cocaine this day, so now I'm just going to work on this. And
right.
No, it was the dependency thing. So with that in mind, it's obvious that he had been, using for a while.
Mm-hmm. I want to mention that I was really because you know me in live albums, and I really thought that when this era came around, I really didn't think that it was going to be like the whole live situation, like it wasn't going to be that good of a so like live act. But I was totally wrong. The live was just as good then, or with as Ziggy was, then with the Thin White Duke. I mean, he was just as awesome, and the show was just as tits.
Yeah, and I mean the band lineup was different here, because even the keyboardist that was on Ziggy isn't on this album. He has a new pianist.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, so he left the picture at this point. Okay. But I can definitely see what you're saying. I mean, that was a pinnacle moment for David Bowie, but he was done with that.
Yeah,
and we talked about that already.
Yeah.
It's just that he wanted to progress. He didn't want to be a character that he made up himself. And
well,
it's evident at this point when Station to Station comes out that it was a success dropping that name.
I also think the same thing like with like bands like Radiohead. I think there are some musicians or artists out there that are from another world, that are literally like an alien but in human clothes. I think the same thing about Bowie just as well as I think the same thing about Radiohead. I mean, these guys, when they create this music, it is so beautiful and so perfect. It's like nothing. You know yourself as a Radiohead fan. You know yourself that nobody could ever done that. That's just Radiohead. That's them.
Yeah, because I mean, you can classify them as like, okay, they're alternative rock, but are they the same alternative rock as like, I don't know, Oasis at the time? Screw that noise.
No.
No. And
we agreed that Radiohead was the band that killed off Britpop. There after Radiohead, there was no more really worried about Oasis or Blur or anything like that.
Yeah, but kind of rewinding here, it all started with David Bowie.
Absolutely,
the Britpop thing.
Yeah.
If it wasn't started by him, it sure got the kick in the ass that it needed to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like we keep on bringing that everlasting question. See what he inspired, what he did first. I mean, we could go. The list is long of saying like, what he's the godfather of. I mean, yeah. Do I think that should be glorified? Maybe, maybe not. I think he doesn't give the proper dues that he does in certain areas. It's mainly for rock or whatever like that. But like we're finding out with Young Americans and even Station to Station, there's a soul there. There wasn't just about the rock.
And it wasn't a character.
No.
It was an art. And actually, I just thought about this. I remember seeing like a year or so ago. It was before David Bowie died, like a while.
Right.
I ran into a website where you can look. It's just a timeline from the start of David Bowie's life to wherever it was at the time. I don't know, just present day.
Yeah.
And you can click anywhere and see what David Bowie was doing, and it's just something completely different and successful, obviously, to another moment where it was just a great success. So I think that proves your point. Just a tool like that, it really puts it into perspective how, as David Bowie would say, astronomical the work was. The work that he was doing. It wasn't from a place of, oh, well, I want to make money. Or it wasn't a face of, oh, well, I need to do it to be a people pleaser.
Exactly.
It was what he wanted to do from start to finish.
Right. I mean, like, we can, we look back on these albums, we talk about these albums, we glorify these albums, we say they're great albums. They are great albums. But at the time, did this album sell? Probably not. I mean, a lot of his albums, even the Berlin Trilogy, those were probably the least selling albums that he did. That was
Heroes is a bit of a different story.
Is it? Okay. Well, yeah, you're right. Heroes was a pretty big song. It still is
for the time that it came out.
But the Wallflowers cover was better. Sorry. I love the Wallflowers cover.
The thing about Station to Station is that while it saw a lot of success, a lot of critical praise, it shows because most of the album turned into singles. 4 of the 6 songs were singles.
Were they? Okay.
So, TVC 1.5 was a big song for the time. It's catchy. And Station to Station obviously got a radio edit.
Right.
Probably down to like 4 minutes or so.
Yeah. Well, it's what happened with Bohemian Rhapsody. The band didn't want... They wanted the whole song on there, and the radio was like, no, we only going to put 3 minutes worth. Can you imagine putting Bohemian Rhapsody only for 3 minutes?
No.
No. Well, that's what I mean, like what you were talking about with the song. I mean, I couldn't listen to that on the radio. I'm like, I couldn't listen. I just need to listen to the album. And that's with a lot of Tool songs, too. There was a lot of... Tool has a lot of songs that they had a radio edited because it was too long.
Oh, you mean like Enema?
Yeah, Enema, or even the stuff that was on 10,000 Days, like Vicarious. Vicarious is probably like close to 8 minutes. They had to shorten that a little bit. The Pot, I remember they had to cut out the "Who are you" at the beginning to point your finger at me. They had to jump right into the "You must have been." They would always start right there.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, it's true though, man. That's what radio's got to do.
But going back to what you were
diversity.
saying about the, with his career, he didn't care whether he was playing stadiums. He didn't care if he was playing smaller places. He was doing his art the way he wanted to. I mean, and yeah, true. Most of his stuff that came out was pretty good selling.
It was surprisingly so, considering how avant-garde it was for the time.
Absolutely.
But it
it's no Bad Company is probably what they would say a lot. Like, there's no Bad Company in there. Where's that classic rock riff? It's like, oh yeah, shove it up your ass, mate. Kind of deal. Like I do what I do, and you like it or not. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, me personally, I mean, when I listened to it, it was okay. It's not my favorite Bowie album. I know it's one of your favorites. I loved Young Americans. Out of these 3 albums that we've talked about, I love the Young Americans probably the most. Diamond Dogs would be number 2, and then Station to Station. But like I said, the next phase, the trilogy, it does kind of get a little darker. I think it does get a little.
In a sense, and ironically so, because that was his recovery, whereas the Station to Station era, and mostly the Thin White Duke era itself, was what he self-described as his darkest days. Yeah. So seeing his recovery, which we'll talk about in the next episode, is dark in itself. It's just a dark concept, and it translated very obviously in the music.
Yeah. Well, I think we're good. Is there anything else you want to bring up, or?
As far as recommendations go, listen to these albums.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to these albums. I mean, all 3 of them have a different feel to them, a different emotion. It really paints a picture of where David Bowie was at the time. So just keep that in mind before going into these albums if you haven't heard them already. Yeah. That's honestly all I could say about it. Is just you gotta really put the album in perspective, and was it pushing the boundaries that Bowie wanted to for the time? Right. Did it fall? I don't think so.
No, I was that type of guy. Like I said, it was Ziggy or nothing. Like really, when it got to Ziggy and after Ziggy, I kind of stopped listening to Bowie. Period. I did like the '80s stuff just because I was raised in the '80s and it was all over MTV at the time. But and as well as the radio. But yeah, listening to these 3 albums, I did see a different side of Bowie that I liked. There was still rock and roll there. But like how you said, it was more of a soul thing. It was more of an American feel to it. It was all about all that and more.
And I think that is what set David Bowie apart. Mm-hmm. I think.
Absolutely. I mean, it was Bowie. There was no band. That was the thing about this when he broke up with the Spiders of Mars. I was like, maybe he was thinking like, hey, I need to cut these guys loose. Like I want to do my own thing, and I don't want them to see like, hey, why aren't you picking my song, or why are we not playing like this anymore? Why are you doing this weird shit? Like, I think he probably thought, I can't do what I want to do with these guys. I got to do something else. So, yeah. But any recommendations from me? Well, I did start the Artist of the Week. I think I'm on 9 Inch Nails right at this moment. I'm about ready to finish it. I don't know what the next Artist of the Week is going to be, but it's just something that I wanted to start. Been trying to get Lance to do something, like do like a Sir Lancelot corner, like he does something like in his. So it's not just me all the time, but you know, that's sooner than later he'll do that, right, Lance?
TBD. I'm trying to come up with some ideas. What I would even discuss, how short it's going to be, how long it's going to be. I don't know, but
yeah. I mean, I'll and like I said, well, we've all agreed that we'll remain faceless for the time being. I don't know if we'll ever, you know, we might eventually put a picture of ourselves out there, but it ain't gonna be anytime soon. So no publicity shots, but. Yeah, I did like how you did the set list of the Baroness, and you're like, yeah, I could have put the picture.
Oh, yeah, I did post that to our Facebook page. That's the Baroness set list that I saw that night, and I put the caption because I knew we were gonna at least briefly mention it on the show, which it wasn't so brief, but yeah, I mean, it's just stuff like that. You know, we're gonna kind of hint at things here and there about what we may or may not do in the future, and and on different episodes. We'll have to see how this takes off.
Yeah. Well, this is the end of episode. Well, not episode, but of the second part of the Bowie trilogy, and
our Berlin trilogy.
Our Berlin Bowie's trilogy. So, anything else, guys?
I think we're done.
All right. Until next time, I'm the Great Bodini,
and I'm Sir Lancelot.
And in the immortal words of Miss Eddie Vedder, we'll see you on the flip side.
Can't.
All right, we're doing.
It just can't be fake.
I'm not faking.
All right.
There once was an ugly barnacle. That barnacle was so ugly that everyone died. The end.
Where was that from?
SpongeBob.
SpongeBob.
Yeah. See, that's the difference. I can see the different generations because
I Wumbo.
He's in a Pokemon, and I fucking. He's like, didn't you ever?
Dude, so am I.
Yeah. Okay.
So
okay.
All
right. So this is the thing. People come up to me all the time like, hey, weren't you ever in a Pokemon? I'm like, dude, when Pokemon came out, I was like 16. I was about like riding in my car, going to get chicks, like going to fucking hang out with my buddies. There's no Pokemon. See, that's the generation gap between me and you guys. See, I still don't get it. I really don't. I mean, I don't get a whole card situation.
You just have to play it because...
Just like Dragon Ball Z.
Yes.
I watched Dragon Ball Z one time, and I was like, okay, is this Kung Fu or is this some kind of something else? Because
the original Dragon Ball was like that, actually.
Yeah, because not Dragon Ball Z, because Dragon Ball Z took you to like a whole new...
Yes.
Okay. But the original Dragon Ball was based off traditional like Taekwondo.
It was actually tradition. It was actually based off a Chinese mythology called Journey to the West.
Journey to the West.
That's an actual.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. That's right.
And what's with the dude with the green head?
That's Piccolo.
Is that Piccolo?
That's Piccolo.
Yeah.
He looks like a pickle. Is that the reason?
He's not the only one because Cell's all green. Well, basically.
Well, mostly green, yeah.
Again, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't know, man.
Dude, Maurizio, sometimes he goes off on this shit. Like, one time we were somewhere, and he was like, we were walking, and he was telling me this story, and I'm like, what? I'm like, it's like, Maurizio, And he's like going nerding out. I'm like, Mercer, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Let's talk about Star Wars or something like that, somewhere I could keep up
But
with
see,
you.
that's a nerdy thing too. I mean, if Star Wars like came out around the time Pokemon or Dragon Ball was a thing.
you're not in tune with like the Japanese manga,
anime,
and things like that.
Yeah, Nintendo's
love
big thing.
Nintendo. Love Nintendo. Best game system, Super Nintendo.
Yes,
Love Super Nintendo.
Yes, love it.
Yeah. And the newest system for me when I was like a little kid was like the Nintendo 64. So I played the hell.
That was a great system.
That's where I kind of turned off with the Nintendo. We did play a lot of GoldenEye because that was the game to play.
Yeah.
I mean, who the hell didn't play GoldenEye? I mean, it was. All right, dude. I'm against you. I play winners, kind of deal. Like
there you go.
I don't think really anybody played this story mode all that much. It might have
because it was a multiplayer heavy game.
But yeah, I mean, it was true, right? You guys played. Yeah. So
if
that was a Rareware game. Wait, that was a Rareware game, right? Because that was the same people that did Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah, Rareware. That was Rareware. And Killer Instinct Gold.
Conker's Bad for a Day.
Yes. Yeah. I've never owned it, but I've seen gameplay of it, and it's amazing.
I am the great Marty Poo.
And
what did you guys think about
throw my shit at you.
Tekken?
Tekken? Did you guys
play
Tekken?
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Tekken was awesome.
So
was Street Fighters.
I played Tekken probably the first 3, and then I kind of stopped after that, just because, okay, let's go see what else is out there. But yeah, Street Fighter, I was the same way. Fuck you up with Bison, dude. I'd fucking murder people. We had this thing. It was like Christmas Day, and when I first got my Super Nintendo, I had gotten Street Fighter Turbo Edition. Okay, and we had this big family kind of get together, and all the kids and all the adults, or all the cool adults, so to speak, not like the dads. We were in the room playing the Street Fighter game, and I was playing as E-Honda, and I think I fucking won like 50 times. And then I had to go somewhere, and then I had to give it to somebody else, and they fucking killed me. I had a record, it was like 50, dude. Like, nobody could beat me. Well, the only thing is that fucking hand thing. You get that thing going, nobody's going to stop you, dude. You try to even, jump, it hits you. But even like Mortal Kombat, I like the first Mortal Kombat.
Yo, man, Scorpion is. I know he's like the Mortal Kombat character, but I take you to hell and back.
Yeah,
with fucking Scorpion.
I was on a high school. Oh, no, it was high school. It was middle school. We went to a bowling alley it was like a class trip or whatever, and there was an arcade. I think it was the first time I ever seen Mortal Kombat, and I was fighting. I beat the first guy, and then I fought Raiden. And Raiden's fucking move was like, he zaps your head and your fucking head explodes. And I was like, whoa, that's an awesome fatality. Yeah, dude. I was like, wow, dude, that guy just
yeah, and he takes off his hat and it has blades on it.
Yeah.
So throw it at
Actually,
you.
I think that was later editions. But
honestly, my favorite fatality would have to come from Mortal Kombat 9 that came out a few years ago, where Kung Lao, where he sticks his opponent on the ground and he takes his hat, throws it down in the ground and just makes it like a blade saw, and he just grabs his opponent and just drags it all the way into it, and then he just holds up both halves.
Oh damn, that's sick, bro.
Badass.
Ah damn. Yes. What was that? The game? It was a Mortal Kombat game. I think it was with Scorpion and Sub-Zero, but it was kind of like a levels game. It wasn't a fighting game, but it was kind of like a Super Mario Brothers type of thing, where you had to go throughout levels. You had to beat. There was guards, and you kick the shit out of them.
That's Mortal Kombat Mythologies.
I played that a lot. Well, I didn't own it, but I had a buddy who had it, and I would always go there, and we would play that shit for hours.
That was a good game, actually.
Yeah, well, I know it got a lot of flack because it wasn't intentionally a Mortal Kombat. It was like Mortal Kombat, but with levels. What's this all about?
It's like Mortal Kombat mixing with Streets of Rage and Final Fantasy.
Yeah, Rampage or something like that.
Rampage. What was that game with the big gorilla and the?
That was Rampage.
Was that Rampage where they just destroyed the buildings?
Yeah.
Me and
the big rat or whatever.
Yeah, Benny and I, we had he had that game. He actually bought this greatest hits thing, and it had like all these like Nintendo games, and one of them was Rampage. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I used to play this a lot when I was a kid and stuff like that." We go up the levels, and I think we were getting up to like level 60 or something like that. And I'm like, "How many levels are there?" He's like, "I don't know." And I think we literally we paused it for a couple of days. I think we got like level 200, and it was literally the same old. I mean, there was like 3 or 4 different scenes. You'd play them over and over and over. Like, there's nothing really to it. You don't beat the game. Sure. And that's Onyx. They named that after the band Onyx.
Oh, you mean the rapper?
Yeah, didn't you do that?
Better believe it.
Nice.
I was actually thinking about the Pokemon Onyx.
Actually, it's 2 things. It is one, the Pokemon, and then the other thing is that he's all black, and Onyx is like a jet black color. So
yeah,
right.
Remember that song Slam? That was a pretty badass song when I was a kid, dude. I remember that album. I almost got that album a couple times.
What do you want?
Da, 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 the boys. Yeah. One guy's like, "I'm a big boy, standing in the middle, my big boy pants hurt, and give me the microphone before I bust on my pants."
Yeah, I recently discovered that because I had never heard of it until somebody was like, "Oh, you mean like the rapper Onyx?" I was like,
"That might have been me, dude."
What are you talking about? No. It was like right after we got him. I was like, "Oh, you mean like the rapper?" I was like, "What?"
Yeah, I don't even think that group's even together anymore. I think one of the guys went off to become an actor or something. So, but yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, it's cool. I didn't even know there was a color named Onyx. I thought it was just the rap group. Maybe that's where they got the idea. Maybe.
Somebody better ask him. I don't know. Yeah, we're just kind of winging it.
Yeah.
This is Dead Space. This is
kind of the Dead Space.
Yeah, it's just your mom. Your mom is getting home. Very good. Get to the chopper.
Or I can also talk like Mickey Mouse. Why don't you suck my dick, little bitch?
Okay.
Oh, boy.
I got a story before I go.
That was creepy, dude.
I got a story before we go. Okay, it was about the time I got left at Kmart. Okay, I think it was like
as a kid.
Yeah. It was around Christmas time. Okay, I
thought your parents might have just dropped you off and Jake
no,
I'm stuck at Kmart. Better call Benny.
No, dude. No. Okay, I was like 12 or 13 at the time. And this was around Christmas time, just because I know like the store was full of people. Okay, so my mom and I, we stop in there, and I think I already gave away the punchline, but anyway, it's all good. So we stop in there, and when I was a kid, he used to always say, "Hey, I'm going to the toy department. I'll be there." "Okay, I'll meet you there." So I didn't really notice, but I'm in the toy department, and I guess the time seemed to go by a little bit faster, or a little bit slower or faster, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, okay. And all of a sudden, I see her. She comes up, and she grabs me by my fucking hand, and she's literally yanking me out of the store. And I'm like, what's going on? I didn't do anything. She's like, no. Let's go. I'm like, am I in trouble? She's like, no, you're not in trouble. I'm like, okay, I didn't do it. Whatever, I didn't do it. I was here the entire time kind of deal. She's like, let's just get in the car and go. So we get in the car. We're driving. I'm like, what's going on? So I guess apparently she went and checked out, put all the shit in the car, got in the car, and got me like 5 minutes from our house before she realized I wasn't in the fucking car.
Oh,
dude! She literally was like, I literally got like right to the entrance of our house, or right where in the neighborhood, and I realized you weren't in the car with me. And I was like, oh, that's nice. So that's my funny story.
Oh man.
Yeah. So anyway, but hey, I digress. That's all, folks.